everyone, just wanted to do some more sketchbook flip through and update and thank everybody who left a comment. I really appreciate it. Starting sort of at the end of this Stillman Birn Alpha sketchbook with what I've been doing the last couple of days, because that's the most fresh in my mind, and just doing a grid of abstract using gouache. And on this page I've got some Neo Color 2 on top of the Winsor & Newton gouache, and I've done a couple pages of these little grids trying to just get some abstract compositions down. And those were the last 3 pages. But if I go back to the start, we're way back in January, and I did a copy of Per Adolfsson's color pencil sketch, and this is one of my own. The beginning of this sketchbook, I really wasn't going to show it because I don't really like much what's happening in here. I used some brush markers and abandoned that. This is fluid acrylics, golden fluid acrylics, the campsite at Algonquin Park. Some owls. This was done in Char's art class back in January or February, and this was pastel, which I don't really enjoy using, but I loved the class. If you ever have a chance to take a class with Charlotte Hamilton, also known as Blue Shine Art, she is amazing. She also is on Instagram every morning, weekday morning, doing a live, so it's very cool. I learned a lot from her. Another one from her class, also from her class. Hopefully that's been recording. Another one from her classes was straight to watercolor, so not loving that at all. But one of the things that I keep coming back to is thinking about how I should stick to one thing and I would get better at it. Perhaps if I just spent all my time going straight to watercolor, I would become more confident and it would look better. These are some of my favorite birds in acrylics, brown thrashers, more abstract compositions in a grid form. Sometimes it's a good way to relax, just to copy out the post-it note square and just go for it. It's very relaxing for me anyway. Some still lifes of a bowl and some inks that I have here. I think I got that bowl from Walmart. It's a Pioneer Woman, something like that. I got some experiments here. So this one is Winsor & Newton gouache over Liquitex acrylic gouache primary red background. And I like that. This is just using the Caran d'Ache pan gouache only, so just one layer. And I gave up. I didn't keep going on that one. Same view of some trees at the back. This is a burnt sienna, acrylic wash as a base, fluorescent pink as a base, more abstract. This is with brush markers. This is with acrylic wash. And this is my version of Tom Thompson's painting from 1915 called Pine Cleft Rocks. And I did a yellow ochre ground and Winsor & Newton on top, and I didn't sketch. I just went straight to painting. And this one I did with no ground and a pencil sketch. But I like this one better. Another Tom Thompson copy called, he called it Sun in the Bush from 1916. And I walked away from this loving this one and thinking that this was terrible. And when I looked back again the next day, I like this one better. Maybe a little bit too much black, but I do like this one. Some golden fluid acrylics of a pathway to the school. I like those, but I feel like they're not finished, but I don't know what I want to do with those yet. This was somehow, I don't know what happened here, but all of this gouache looks so dull and muddy. This was an experiment with some acrylics, and then I went over top with some charcoal, but it was acrylic, so the pages were sticking, and when I went over with the matte medium or clear gesso. Can't remember which one I used. The charcoal, I guess, that I used was water soluble, so it just made a big mess. This was one of the monsteras that I have already shown. Some notes on something I was learning about, Barbara Kruger, video called Part of the Discourse. I went back to it and watched it again because I kept coming back to one of the things she said I thought was very important. And then we get to this page, and this was the page that made me think about what I'm going to do next. So I did this outside on my lap, and I hate it. I don't like it. I shouldn't say hate it. I don't like it. I had fun while I was doing it. It was great. This one is color pencil. I like to be able to have the idea of going outside to paint, and I enjoy it while I'm doing it, but I never really like how it turns out. It made me think, though, that I keep going back and trying watercolors and pencil crayons because I think I would like the simplicity of just taking a couple of things with me instead of taking gouache and water and all that kind of stuff. If I could do watercolor and one water brush or a few pencil crayons and like my results, I think I would be so happy. So I thought I keep going back to that. And because when I come back in the studio and I do the birds that I happen to see outside that day from a photograph, I love how they turn out. So back to the watercolor. I was thinking that I think I go back to watercolor every year, hoping that now I'll be able to master it or at least somehow enjoy it and like what I've done. This was last Saturday. Just looking around the yard and taking my paints outside and just making these little, it's almost like a nature journal sketchbook. And I don't really like how it looks. I keep going back. I like how I paint in gouache, I guess, because I spend so much time in it. But it made me realize I'm going to go back. This is from 2020. I took an old painting and bound it myself. And back in 2020, in May, there were snow flurries, and I was trying to do some watercolors. And I was walking around the neighborhood, and I believe we were in lockdown, and I was teaching from home. So I think that's what this says at the back. So just had more time to really think about and look at nature and what was going on around me, because sometimes I would teach online from outside, and I would be out in the day when I'm not usually there and see a lot of things that I never would have seen. This fox was, I was inside, saw it out the window, and it was coming right down my street, and it went off into our backyard. So that was pretty cool. A little bit scary too. Saw lots and lots of things and was able to go out for a lot of walks and really started to think about birds for the first time and enjoy seeing them and learning about them. And I like how this turned out, and I think I was quite thoughtful and how I was making each page. I wasn't just randomly doing it like in some of the other books that I've done. I was really thinking about this because I knew that I had bound it and I wanted it to be all together. So that was 2020. Back to watercolor. I kind of like it. This is 2021, also April to May, so around this time of year. And there I was. I think that must be gouache, but you'll see I go back into watercolor. And some of these I think are okay. I think I put a lot of thought into the page layout, or it just turned out. Thinking about watercolor and how much I would like to get better at it. Also still thinking about nature and what, also teaching online, or some of this stuff is for school. Love that color combination. Some of my pages, if I really mess up bad, I'll paint over them in acrylic, and then this one I drew over it with my fountain pen. Watercolor again, outside. This book is also the Alpha, the same with Stillman Birn that I did in the last one. So it's the same paper. And you can see that the watercolor could be really cool and nice if I knew what I was doing. It works really nice on this paper. And this is with my Pentel brush pen, Pentel brush pen. The House of Heads in Guelph, Ontario. We went and took a look at that house. It was pretty cool. More birds, watercolor, painting the shadows that I could see. And this northern flicker came into the yard, another bird that really made me want to get into bird watching. More watercolor, this abstract again. So I keep coming back to the same things. Keep coming back to water, keep coming back to abstract, coming back to birds. This was an online teaching session of the students and their faces. These were some examples that I did while teaching online. And this one is watercolor and this one is color pencil. Watercolor again, drawing from John Muir Law's instruction book. And this was a watercolor that I just really did not like. I just kept going too much. I'm not letting the water do its thing. I'm trying to manage it like I manage gouache. I think that is the big problem. Looking for some bright color, I guess, and then just my palette and some notes of the time. One of the things it says, the vicious cycle continues, and I think it's just because that just is a recurring theme of going back and what do I want to paint, what tools do I want to use. This is from April and May 2022. This is my pencil case set up with Prismacolor Premier colored pencils. So this was the set that I had at the time. I had an electric sharpener, and I was of the mind that I'm just going to use these tools only in this sketchbook so I could try to get better at them. And this was a time when I was looking online at windowswap.com, and these different views of windows for 10 minutes come up, and I was trying to sketch along to those. And I have fun with that because it's from all over the world, and this was from Prague. So using my Prismacolor color pencils, a little bit of ink around. These are all the birds I was seeing. From a photo I took camping at Algonquin Park. Some more color pencils. This was watercolor. Did this for school. That is a tree at our school, and color pencil on black paper, the same tree in color pencil. So most of this is color pencil, and I really think it's pretty and I like how it turned out. Most of them looks, but what I recall about not liking it is that it takes a lot of time, and going back and forth and layering, it really took a lot of time. So as much as I liked how it turned out, I love this one. Going through photos, reliving the memories of the time when the photo was taken. That was really nice to be able to go through and do those things. Another window swap. But I obviously abandoned it again after this. Still pick them up every once in a while and wish that I could take a simple kit of colored pencils and that's it. But gouache keeps calling me back. More birds that I've seen. I saw one of these today, white-throated sparrow. Saw one of these today, ruby-crowned kinglet. Saw one of these yesterday. So around the same time of the year, I'm seeing the same bird, so it's nice to look back on. Colored pencil, saw one of these today, eastern towhee, very cool. Cowbird I saw today. red-winged blackbirds, lots of those out there today. Black-capped chickadees have created a nest in one of our birdhouses, so I see them every day. And these are the bird watching club that we do at school. It's cute to see the kids. This is a story one of the little girls was telling me about how all the birds come and land on her head and her arms and hands. It's quite a story. And then just a pen and ink, brown thrasher I saw today, and I was very excited. And here's an interesting quote, because I'm thinking about this, I'm feeling the same way, and it's April again. If I could just pick one art medium, my desk might be tidy. Yes, some of the things I sewed. This time last year, I did 2 oil paintings in that recent time. I made 80 little sketchbooks for the kids at school. I made a seated journal. I had used gouache with my wet palette. I did embroidery a little bit. So I think part of it is because I do some of this for students and with students that I have to keep a lot of materials and know how to use them. But picking one would be amazing, but maybe not. Thank you to someone left me a comment that said, the comment said that they liked the variety. So I really appreciated that, because sometimes, well, a lot of times every year, at least around April, according to these sketchbooks, I start to question. And I think a lot of that is because the weather gets nice and I want to go outside and paint outside instead of sitting indoors and painting while it's so lovely outside. So back to thinking about what I'm going to do. And since the latest things in my book were abstract, I think, at least for a few days, I will be continuing with these abstract compositions and perhaps painting a large one. So picking one that I really like and scaling it up for a place I have on my wall that I would like to change the painting that's already there. That was a long one. Thank you so much, everybody. And I will be back next week with what I've been doing since now. Bye.